Hi, I'm Danny Queen. Welcome to another exciting edition of Color Me Poetry this evening. This evening we have a wonderful guest with us. Brother has written a brand new book and is simply entitled The Genocide Files in the person of Nathan Xavier Arnold. Welcome, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Color Me Poetry, brother. We've heard so much about your book, The Genocide Files, and we want to talk about The Genocide Files. But before we talk about the book, we want to talk about you and how you got started writing.
Well, it's a pretty simple story. I guess like a lot of people have always wanted to write since I was a child, really. And but I always said, well, I have to wait till I have enough experience and have to delay it. And finally, I think it was on my 38th birthday, I decided I was going to wait no longer, and I put pen. Oh, really? A computer, took my computer out and started typing. Exactly. And it was a labor of love. It took me, I guess, almost 2 years to actually, from concept to actually a finished product.
Now, the book is written as if it's a novel.
It
But
is.
the material in the book is so heavy that, well, I mean, it just don't seem like the type of material that you'd find in a novel.
Exactly.
Why'd you write it that way?
Well, I thought that a lot of people tend to seek the entertainment medium quite a bit more. And there are books out about conspiracy and what have you. And so there were enough of those already on the market. I wanted to do something a bit different. And I think that's why the book has been so well received, because it weaves a story around what's happened to us as a people in this country. And it's not preachy, but it's an engaging, entertaining story. And in fact, we've heard from such people at this point as Melvin Van Peebles,
Yes.
and some other people that have contacted me about doing a script for it. So it's getting in the right circles.
So you have a review coming up in the Black Quarterly Review.
Exactly,
Yeah, coming
exactly.
up this spring.
In fact, I think it should be due out any time now. I spoke with the editor, Max Rodriguez, and he said it was a good review. So I'm looking forward to it. And I've gotten several other reviews up to this point, and I've been humbled because they have been so outstanding.
So the book has been well received.
It's been very
already.
well received.
What about young people? Have you gotten responses from young people?
Yes, I have. And to my amazement, it's been the same. I mean, this book has crossed both generation and gender. I was on Robin Breeden's show on WPGC, and she had given the book to her 13-year-old son, and he loved it. He couldn't put it down. So of course, and she liked it as well. So 2 generations, and men and women have enjoyed it. Yes, exactly.
Now, you're writing this book, and in the writing of this book, what were you thinking of? Were you thinking of the Tuskegee experiments, that our people went through? That, of course, there was a recent TV movie.
Exactly.
Were you thinking about just our whole sojourn here in America as a people?
Pretty much our whole sojourn here, we have, what's happened to us is really almost unbelievable. You look at...
so we're not supposed to be here.
Exactly, exactly.
And be in your right mind.
Being in our right mind, that's exactly right. It's like our world has been turned upside down. And we're taught early on that we made no contributions. If we go to public schools, we're taught that we've made no contributions to civilization, that we've pretty much been an ignorant, backwoods people.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is just the opposite.
Did everything.
I mean, civilization began with us. The sciences, the arts,
all of it,
literature, all started in Africa, as did humanity itself.
And I think that's why this society is coming out and attacking so many of the African-centered scholars at this time, such as Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Yosef Ben Yaakman. They're attacking many of them because they know they're telling the truth.
Exactly.
And they know that this society and white supremacy has lied for 440 years.
Exactly.
And I think that's why there was such an uproar about the Million Man March a few years ago in '95. because the fear of those who I like to say those who are in power or those hidden hands, if you will, the unseen hand. It's been a threat to them. Knowledge, like they say on the well, information is power.
Information is power.
Yeah.
Exactly,
It really
exactly. And so many of us, I think, and that's another reason why I wanted to write it in the form that I wrote it, is because so many of us look at the entertainment medium and the images that we see there.
Very powerful.
Exactly, very powerful. But the images that we receive a lot of time, even in our authors, our current authors, they really, as far as I know, don't really deal with weighty subjects. I mean, it's what she did to him and what he did to her, and that kind of thing. Nothing really positive. And so I wanted to do something that was realistic, but showed us in a multiplicity of characters and positive images, and that's what I do in this book.
And not jaded.
And not jaded, exactly. People that find solutions, because we can find solutions to the predicament that we find ourselves in.
You know, sometimes I think we become masters at speaking to the problem, but we have to also speak to the solutions.
That's exactly right.
That we need.
That's
to our own
exactly
benefit.
right. That's exactly right.
And because of the world in which we live, everything is changing everything is changing so fast. The world is becoming much smaller. Well, for one, like you mentioned earlier, your laptop, and I think those kind of things have made the world smaller, and therefore communication. I mean, you can communicate so much quicker now.
Exactly, the World Wide Web.
Right, and then when you do, you should have something to say. I mean, if you're going to publish a book, or if you're going to write a poem or whatever, you should have something to say. I always say you should uplift and inspire people in whatever it is that you write. But that's not everybody's goal. You know?
Right, exactly. Some very profit, quick and fast. But I have the same philosophy. I didn't want to write something that would be just run of the mill. I mean, that would not enlighten people. And because I think we are, as a people in this country, are in dire circumstances. I mean, every day you can pick up the paper and find there's something negative.
Yeah, all the time.
You know, and it's to a point where, as Toni Morrison talked about at Howard several years back, it's almost like they're setting up a pattern to get rid of us, you know, and that's what the book.
Kind of like they did the Jews and Nazi
Exactly,
Germany.
exactly with the European Jews.
Built into
Exactly
that.
right.
So when other people, you know, view us around the world, they already have negative stereotypes ingrained already.
Ingrained
so when
already.
Happened, they're like, well, you know, they were going down that road, so.
Exactly, they got what they deserved, kind of thing.
Right.
You know, we're better off without them.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't contribute anything anyway.
Yeah, that happens around the world, and it's very sad.
It's very sad.
With your book, can you give us a little bit of the plot, if you will, a little bit of the story, storyline?
Okay. The story begins in Chicago, and the central character is Matthew Peterson. He's a young, very well-to-do African American, and he's in corporate America. He's very successful. He really has no ties to his past, his personal history, or his larger history, the history of black people. And he feels he's better. Exactly, he feels he's better off for it.
He's upper crust.
He's upper crust, right? Exactly.
What we call him, E. Franklin Fraser calls him the black bourgeoisie.
Exactly.
We all know them type though.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, let's put a pin there for a minute.
Okay.
Why is it that we have people like that who feel they have no connection to their people at all?
Because I think it's a simple process. This society programs you to do that. It tells you that forget about your past, forget about those things.
I.e. OJ?
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, you have to confront it. And that's what happened in this book. And I've heard a number of people, both men and women again, come to me and say, your book was just so profound for me because I was like that guy.
He was that person.
I was like this. Yeah, exactly. And it's been an eye-opening experience for a lot of people that have read it because, as I said, it's not a preachy, but you can see yourself and you begin to understand, as the central character did, how important knowledge and an understanding of your history really is.
But you don't get that. You certainly don't get it you don't get it on the lower levels, but you don't get it in college and universities either.
Exactly.
That type of thinking. For instance, we can go to 4 years, 5 years to college and never have a course in entrepreneurship.
That's very true. That's
You
very
get
true.
business courses, but in actual entrepreneurship.
None, none. You are exactly right. It's for a lot of us, it's trial and error, and too many of us, continue to do the error part.
Yeah.
So, it's the tables are stacked against us, and that's been how it has been historically.
Well, yeah, historically, I was going to say, because it's always been stacked against us, but we've always had people who persevered.
Exactly.
went on. We could start with somebody like Frederick Douglass, because Frederick Douglass was a rebel. They think of Minister Louis Farrakhan as being some kind of rebel, but he said he just being himself.
Exactly.
But Frederick Douglass was more of a rebel than Minister Farrakhan ever was during his time.
Exactly.
When you think about what he did and the things that he accomplished. A man that was if you will, a self-made man, self-educated, self-taught.
Exactly.
Frederick Douglass.
Exactly. That's very true. And people overlook, again, Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Malcolm X turned his life around. Okay. And so you have the opportunity. It's a matter of how you choose to use it a lot of times. And Frederick Douglass is quoted in this book, his famous The 5th of July speech.
Yes. Is that Rochester, New York?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And there's a ceremony in the book where that's discussed. Again, it's like it's woven into the story. So I think once the book, you've read it, you can really begin to appreciate it.
Some people don't believe that a man like Frederick Douglass could say those kind of words during that time. But then also you had David Walker and David Walker's
appeal, right?
Yeah.
Even earlier, in the 1820s. So we've had I guess that goes to the fact that we have not, as a people, just taken this abuse sitting down.
Right.
I mean, you had Nat Turner.
That's right.
And you had others who struggled, Sojourner Truth. You had people to fight against this madness. And so that's really the normal aspect of it. When you see people sitting down saying everything is great, then I think you have a problem, because everything is not great.
Well, yeah, because if everybody's thinking alike, ain't nobody thinking.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, I've had, in speaking engagement at book signings, I've had white people to come to me and say, well, Mr. Queen, according to your book, white people haven't done anything. I said, well, I'm not saying that. Well, then they say, well, what white people do you think or do you see as heroes? I say, John Brown. That's about all I can think of. That's about as far as I can go.
Exactly.
Because of the history speaks for itself.
It does.
It's not just me sitting here saying that.
Exactly.
But the history speaks to that.
Exactly.
And when I say that, they look very puzzled. And they walk away and don't say anything.
Exactly. But no, you speak the truth. And we've become accustomed to Disney, for lack of a better word, to change history, to make people feel good, and you hide the truth. And everybody knows that Columbus didn't discover anything.
Well, he discovered Indians, and Indians discovered.
Well, the Indians, I don't know they had names back then. They
didn't call themselves Indians.
Exactly. But my point is simply this, that what we as a people see happening here is the truth being sanitized, okay? And we are told to accept that. Forget the pain, exactly, forget the pain that you went through. It really wasn't that bad. Slavery wasn't all that, and so we are told and taught to forget it and move on.
We're going to pick up on that point as soon as we come back. This is Danny Queen, this is Color Me Poetry. We'll be right back.
Okay.
When the heavens thunder, when the nation calls, you can make a difference and be a part of it all.
Find yourself in the Army National Guard, serving 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, and you'll find an extra paycheck, money for college, and all the adventure you can handle. Call 1-800-GO-GUARD.
In the Army National Guard, you can.
Conscious control. Trapped and trained to think with somebody else's mind. Caught up in the method of the madness by a master design. MAs, JDs, MSs, an MBA, and a PhD without the knowledge of self don't mean a thing to me. It's all ignorant academics at its best, and like the educated fool, full of BS. Highly miseducated misfits will keep you chained and bound. And every time you try to get up, they'll pull you back down. Symptoms of this sickness of the soul is simply miseducation by conscious control. Hi, I'm Danny Queen. Welcome back to Color Me Poetry. We're here with author Nathan Arnold, and we're talking about his book, The Genocide Files. We were just talking about, before we took the break, how sometimes oppression, when you're oppressed, and the oppressor will tell you how you should respond to your oppression.
Exactly.
They don't tell the Jewish people how to respond to their oppression, but they can show Schindler's List in the middle of Black History Month, and that's all right.
Exactly. And that's been historically how it's been done. We talked about the Constitution and how it said we were essentially three-fifths human.
Yes.
And we had prescriptions against us that nobody else had. Even the Native Americans had the rights, certain rights, but black people were denied any rights under the Constitution. A lot of people don't realize that. We hear about the great Constitution and Thomas Jefferson and those kinds of things, but the reality was, for our ancestors, that they had no rights at all. And so that same kind of mentality, I think, is what we see in place when we see those kinds of things happening in about Schindler's List and Black History Month. I think it's an attempt to diffuse the issue. Okay.
Altogether.
Exactly, exactly. Forget about that. Move on, and we can't forget about it.
But that brings us back to the character in your book, Matthew. Matthew was bred that way. There's, like we said, there's a lot of people who think that way because they're taught to think that way.
Exactly, and encouraged to think that way.
Yes.
And are told that they are a misfit if they think any other way. That if we engage our own pain and our own issues around that, then we're wrong. You know, we should just melt into the melting pot and get on with it. But
we don't melt down.
We don't melt down. That's
now,
right.
other folk come here, Jews and other people come here, could do that. The Polish and the Irish, they could, melt and mix right in.
Exactly.
We don't melt down. We don't mix in.
That's exactly.
So America had a problem.
And still has a problem. Yeah. And in fact, there's a quote in my book. Each chapter is headed with a quote. And there's one in there from Thomas Jefferson, which essentially says that this problem, the racial problem that we have in America, will always be with us. And it will only end, and this is from our third president of the United States, and it will only end in the extermination of one or the other race. This is Thomas Jefferson speaking over, nearly 200 years ago. Right. And it makes you pause when you think about this was the same man that penned the Constitution.
Yeah, even during that time. And also it reminds me of the great African-American scholar, Du Bois, who said the problem of the 20th century will be that of the color line.
Exactly.
And it's still true to this moment as we sit here. As we sit here talking about it.
Exactly. I guess when a train of events have been set into place, you can't just sweep the injustices under the rug.
Yes.
You can't. I mean, I think the Creator has set certain things, certain laws, if you will, that govern both the physical and the spiritual realm. And justice is a part of that. And when justice has been torn asunder, like it has in America, they will always have to look over their shoulders. Not only did they kidnap millions of Africans, they also killed millions of Native Americans.
Yes.
Okay? They took this land by superior force.
Well, yeah.
That is wrong.
They took the land, they took us.
Exactly.
And they were disenfranchised.
Exactly.
As all people of color were and are disenfranchised.
Exactly.
In your book, the main character, Matthew, what are some of the other trials and tribulations that he goes through to reach the stage of consciousness, if you will?
Well, in the very first chapter, Matthew comes across a murder scene in Chicago, and he's caught up in the moment, so he really is not aware of the larger picture. But what is happening is the police come to the scene,
Right. I remember.
and they mistake him for the killer.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Exactly.
I know, but I wanted you to say it because you know.
Right.
You can say it better than I can.
Exactly. They mistook him for the killer, and you know, beat him up, take him down to the precinct before they realize who he is. You know, damage has been done.
Come on, real life. Come on.
Exactly. and he speaks to the fact that he's just a nigger. You know, I don't care how much money he has, what
OJ, come on.
kind of prestige he thinks he has, how many limousines he rides in. In that particular instance, he was in fear of his life. He became a nigger.
That's when he had this wake-up call?
Exactly, and that was the start of the transition in his life. And from there, he tries to pick up the story and work with the story of the murders, and is cast into a spiral, if you will, of political and intrigue. And the book picks up the pace from there.
That's, is that close to real life or what?
Oh, very much so.
Like a page from real life, a slice of life, if you will?
I think very much so. And I guess that's why I've gotten the responses I've gotten from people, because
It's very real.
it's very real.
Yeah.
It's very present day. And we see so much of it happening around us. I mean, you look at Gamage in
Yes.
Pittsburgh.
Johnny Gammers.
Exactly. Here was a businessman, a young black businessman, riding in a nice car, okay, killed,
For what?
murdered. And the police did not get a day that did it.
But that happens all the time.
Exactly.
Prosecutors don't prosecute.
Exactly. Again,
police. I mean, we can say the same thing right here in PG County. I mean, this is the seat of old boy, redneck, you know,
Exactly.
country. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
We could look at the case with Terrence Johnson.
Exactly. But again, that goes to even the Constitution. We are not really a whole person.
3/5.
We're 3/5. So we are property. You do that to property. You name property. Okay, you place property here, place it there. And we as a people need to begin to understand that. And that's also part of the book, where a particular scene in the book where Matthew comes to understand the importance of your name. Okay, but I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, of course.
But the transformation is complete by the time he discovers.
But so his wake-up call was really like a slap in the face.
It was, and it was something that he was not ready for and was not looking to happen.
Well, I think another thing is very important is that we're taught to go to school and get a good education and work hard, and you can get ahead like anybody else. Well, you can do that, and a lot of us do, and the opportunity is there for us to do that a lot of times. But at the same time, there's this other side that no matter how hard you work and how much education you have, sometimes you can walk down the street with your suit and tie on and you know,
Exactly.
all that. But in certain neighborhoods, it doesn't matter what you have
At
on.
certain hotels that you go to, it
Yeah.
makes no difference how much your suit costs, what kind of watch you have. The
None of
color of your skin takes precedence. There is nothing that is more meaningful at that point. And of course, we see it all the time. Even in the language that we speak, we are taught to hate ourselves, to denigrate what's
Yes.
black. And so we are taught that from essentially day one.
Historically so.
That's right.
We look at the movie some years ago, Roots, and the importance of that. But that was just the tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
You know,
That's
that was
right.
mild.
That was mild, really. If you really go back and really concentrate, think about what really happened, man, it's something you really can't dwell on it too long. It really is just that painful, just that. If you read some of the slave narratives,
Yes.
man, it's incredible. I was reading one. I was reading one recently, and it was about a young black boy, who was listening to his mother being whipped by the overseer. And here was your natural instinct is to go to your mother.
Yes.
Okay, to go and help her. he stood in the doorway of the hut, whatever, and cried, unable to assist his mother who was crying out in pain. Imagine the trauma that he had to undergo, and let alone what she had to undergo.
Imagine how black men felt.
Imagine how we felt. Imagine how
not being able to protect our family, our women, our children, and having that taken away from us.
Exactly. The very thing that defines our manhood,
right,
being stripped from us.
That's the truth, brother.
And so we still see a lot of that today. We still see a lot of that today, and it's until we deal with that pain and until we really deal with that. We'll never be whole.
I'm glad you say that, because a lot of times we, as a people, we've been taught, and a lot of us feel we shouldn't talk about our past. We shouldn't talk about slavery. But the Jews talk about the Holocaust as if it happened yesterday afternoon.
Exactly.
And it's always up in your face all the time, as if it was our fault. We didn't do anything to Jewish people. Our people didn't put Jewish people in ovens. So why did they look at us like the enemy, as the enemy? We're not the enemy.
We're
not the enemy.
But then again, I think part of that is that we simply do not control the media.
And they do.
Exactly. And I think we're seeing more and more of our people begun to play a greater role.
Yes.
But behind the cameras and in the newsrooms and in the publishing houses and in the record, we are the actors or the right. I mean, we don't really control it. And so we are told what to put out, what to listen to. In essence.
And some of these music videos just really, degrading.
Exactly, very.
Some of these sitcoms.
Very much so.
It's not about truth, it's about entertainment and making you laugh.
Exactly.
But you're laughing at, what are you laughing at? You're laughing at yourself.
Exactly, Exactly right.
That's why I think a book as yours, The Genocide Files, is so very important. What is it that you hope to achieve with the Genocide Files?
Well, I hope to reach an audience that typically doesn't read nonfiction. The book is filled with references to historical facts, things that we aren't taught. And I hope that it will engage people, that they'll learn and not even really know they're learning. They're reading it because it's entertaining. And so we'll open a broader market to, I think, people like Sheikh Anta Diop.
Yes.
Who was a genius, brilliant scholar.
Spoke 8 or 10 different languages.
Exactly. And yet most black people have never heard of it.
That's right.
Okay. And so it will broaden people's horizon is what I hope. Because there's a lot of, like I said, historical truth in the book. But the genius of it, I think, is that it engages the mind. And the story pulls you in and not in a preachy or teachy way.
I think your book teaches at the same time on many different levels. Even though it's entertaining on one level, but on the subconscious level, you're learning something. It's like a wake-up call at the same time. So I think that's the mark of a good book, to be simplistic on one level, but be maybe complex even at another level, and another level still. And then I think that's the mark of a classic book.
Well, thank you.
And your book to me is one of those books, brother.
Thank you.
And it's beautiful to be able to do that. But it's an art form also to be able to do that.
Exactly. And that's the feedback that I've gotten. People have just felt that it was so well done because it is simple on one, it's very simplistic, but very complex on another level. And it engages your thoughts, your emotions. There's a scene in there toward the end of the book where I've actually had several women come up to me and say they actually cried when they read it. That's powerful, man.
Man, I'm serious.
You know, actually said they cried in that particular scene and asked me about it. So it was really, it's
then
been
you know that's
touching
powerful.
to me. Exactly.
When you engender questions and get that kind of emotional response from people.
Exactly.
And I guess intellectual responses as well. You know, it's not just emotional, but to see people respond to a book that way.
Exactly.
It says a lot about the book and also a lot about the author.
Well, thank you.
It really does. Brother, we thank you for coming and sharing with us. Is there a P.O. box, phone number where we can get in touch with you for speaking engagement or book signings?
Oh, sure. I'm local. I'm also in PG County.
Okay.
And my publishing company is called Tanner Lake Publishing. The number's 301-894-3326. 301-894-3326.
Now, just before we go, I also want to talk about the cover of the Genocide Files. And how'd you come up with this beautiful cover?
I worked with, well, Michael Brown designed the artwork and actually did the artwork. It's a beautiful piece, and it tells a lot about the book itself. Michael Brown, of course, is I guess most well known for the Million Man March poster, the official Million Man March poster. And he was very helpful in doing it. I really loved what he did.
And he's a beautiful artist, man. He's bad.